Voters' political orientation, level of political information, and probability of voting. So as you go from strong Democrat liberal to strong Republican, whether you have low information or high information, you sort of see it come down and then go back up. Okay? Economists KKC and MS Jr. investigated a variety of factors that influence voter turnout in the U.S., using survey data that revealed whether respondents voted in national elections and how knowledgeable respondents are about politics. C&S claimed that the likelihood of voting is driven in part by potential voters' confidence in their assessments of candidates. Essentially, the more informed voters are about politics, the more confident they are at evaluating whether candidates share their views, and thus the more likely they are to vote. Let me say this last part again. The more informed voters are about politics, the more confident they are at evaluating whether candidates share their views, and thus the more likely they are to vote. So if people are better informed, which I think is high information rather than low information, then they can figure out whether the politicians share what they want, share their views, and then they therefore vote more often. Okay? Which choice best describes data in the graph that support their claim? And the claim is the likelihood of voting is driven in part by voters' confidence in their assessments of candidates. Sure, dash, and is what we just said. At each point on the political orientation scale, high information voters were more likely than low information voters to vote. That seems good to me, right? So the black bars are always higher than the gray bars. The people with more information, who are the more informed ones, can more confidently figure out whether politicians share their views, and therefore they vote more. So I think it's A, but let's go through all four. Only low information voters who identify as independents had a voting probability below 50%. Well, identify. I guess that actually is true, but that's not the answer. That's not the general trend. The closer that low information voters are to the ends of the political orientation scale, the more likely they were to vote. Again, that's true, but doesn't prove the point, because you have to compare the people who are more informed with less informed. High information voters were more likely to identify as strong Democrats or strong Republicans than low information voters. No, it's not whether they're partisan, it's whether they vote based on having more information. So A is the best answer.